All right, it is 6 o'clock on the dot. We are getting started. Welcome everyone to our DREF Research Matters for All of Us session by the Houston Citywide Coordinating Team, celebrating Lupus Awareness. Tonight's keynote speaker will be Monya Ozan, and she will be sharing her personal testament as a lupus survivor. As always, we like to give you an overview. I will be the session facilitator for tonight. Olivia Morris will be our Q&A sessions moderator. Our community partner spotlight will be Tracy M. Fletcher, president of the Houston Metropolitan Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Antonia JJ will be presenting our Research Corner Spotlight. Kiana Allison will be introducing our speaker. We've already mentioned who our keynote speaker is tonight, Ms. Monya Ozan. For those who are on Zoom, Eva Nunez will be your contact. She will engage you. You can ask your questions and she will respond. For those on Facebook Live, Lakeisha Brown will be your contact person. So if you have questions, please direct them to Lakeisha and she'll be sure that the members in the Zoom chat can respond to those questions. Last but not least, Sherachel Gordon will be announcing our raffle winners for tonight. So we definitely want you to engage, bring your questions and comments so that you will be eligible to win. As always, we like to begin our session by acknowledging the leaders of the Delta Research and Education Foundation's DREF Research Matters for All of Us initiative, especially our citywide coordinating program. And these are the leaders at the national level. We do the landscape highlight at the beginning of the session to remind everyone that although we are doing this in Houston, these type of sessions are also happening across the nation in 12 diverse metropolitan cities. I am your citywide coordinator for the Houston area. So DREF was established in 1967 as a major nonprofit organization with a uniform focus on supporting African-American women and our families. The DREF Research Matters for All of Us program is an initiative that is ran by DREF. And for this specific initiative, the objectives are to create awareness, to encourage health and wellness, and to educate the African-American community on diverse health topics. And tonight, we will be addressing lupus. So I've mentioned the citywide coordinating program, and this program aims to engage the community about the NIH All of Us research program. And we've been doing this work since September 2020 through virtual outreach sessions just like this one. And we try to educate the African American community about the NIH All of Us research program and the importance of participating in biomedical research. And we do this by highlighting different health topics that oftentimes the community can connect with in some way or form. So by highlighting those health topics, we also bring to light some of the research that has been initiated or created or is being studied now to address those health problems and to mitigate symptoms and progression of disease. So during the 2021-2022 year, we are continuing to do this work through June, facilitating 2 monthly sessions. And we also have events and programs as our pop-up clinic is happening May 14th, where we will be offering community members an opportunity to join the NIH All of Us research program. And here is a brief video about the initiative.
In 1967, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated established the Delta Research and Educational Foundation as a public charity supporting scholastic achievement, public service programs, and research initiatives focused upon African American women and their families. Today, DREF remains strong, vibrant, and poised to meet 21st century challenges with the same unwavering spirit and dedication the sorority originally envisioned. The charge to realize social and economic equality for future generations of African American women continues as the guiding principle. Since 2017, DREF has received funding from the National Institutes of Health to continue its role as a national community engagement partner to promote the All of Us research program through a community awareness campaign that informs African Americans and minorities about the importance of understanding and participating in biomedical research. The National Health Initiative, conducted by the Delta Research and Educational Foundation in collaboration with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the National Council of Negro Women, is entitled Research Matters, Creating Possibilities to Achieve Health and Wellness for All of Us. The objectives are to engage, educate, and ultimately enroll African Americans in the National Institutes of Health All of Us 1 in a Million campaign, a national database primarily comprised of diverse and traditionally underrepresented populations. The mission of the All of Us research program is simple. It is to speed up health research and medical breakthroughs by asking 1 million people to lead the way to provide the types of information that can help create individualized prevention, treatment, and care for all of us. The All of Us research program is a part of the Precision Medicine Initiative created during President Obama's administration. Precision medicine is healthcare that is based on you as an individual. It takes into account factors like where you live, what you do, and your family health history. Precision medicine's goal is to be able to tell people the best ways to stay healthy. If someone does get sick, precision medicine may help healthcare teams find the treatment that will work best. This will help give healthcare providers the information they need to make tailored recommendations relevant to people of different backgrounds, ages, or geographic regions. African Americans continue to have some of the highest incidence, prevalence, and mortality rates from chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, hypertension, mental health, and HIV/AIDS. Yet we comprise only 5% of clinical trials participants in America. Our focus and objective is to create awareness about how research matters in closing the health disparities gap. DREF seeks the assistance of national organizations, local chapters, sections, community leaders, and organizations to make the All of Us research program a successful endeavor. The influence, leadership, and participation of the aforementioned groups are needed to assist in promoting this groundbreaking opportunity. Individuals, groups, and organizations are welcome to assist with conducting and/or identifying outreach activities. Training, materials, and monetary resources may be available to support groups and organizations with approved collaborations. Please send an email of interest to researchmatters@deltafoundation.net outlining upcoming activities and events in which the All of Us research program can be included. For more information, please visit www.joinallofus.org/DREF.
Okay, so you were able to glean some basic information about the DREF Research Matters for All of Us program, but this initiative is in support of the NIH All of Us research program, which is a historic program. It's a longitudinal study, and when we say longitudinal, that means it takes place over time, and this is a study that will follow enrolled participants for 10 years. Overall, the study aims to gather 1 million diverse participants. And by including such a large number of individuals, this will help to accelerate advances in treatment and care options. Because when you have a study with a lot of people, oftentimes the findings of the study are generalizable to the public. So this is the type of research program and study design that has potential for high impact.
So tonight I'm launching a new precision medicine initiative to bring us closer to curing diseases like cancer and diabetes, and to give all of us access to the personalized information we need to keep ourselves and our families healthier.
My name is Janelle Johnson. I'm a biologist in the Laboratory of Neurogenetics for the National Institute on Aging within the National Institutes of Health.
Dr. Janelle Johnson has long had an interest in neuroscience, especially in neurodegenerative diseases.
My focus is on the genetics of neuromuscular diseases, in particular ALS, but I also study neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease.
Developing treatments for these diseases, treatments that are geared to the individual person, is also one of Dr. Johnson's goals.
Research has advanced to the point where personalized medicine has become a reality. And when I say personalized medicine, I mean that specific traits that you might have are more easily targeted by particular drugs. As researchers, we can target those drugs and find the best possible solutions for your diseases.
To find these solutions, scientists need to conduct clinical trials, research studies with volunteers, to see which treatments are safe and effective, and for whom.
If African Americans participate in research studies, they have the opportunity to treat or ultimately cure diseases. If not, we won't be sure if the current studies will apply to them.
Dr. Johnson says that more African Americans are needed for these studies, but there is sometimes reluctance to participate in clinical trials.
African Americans are often fearful of participating in clinical trials, and I think this largely has to do with the Tuskegee syphilis study, which lasted for about 40 years, so a lot of people were impacted by that.
However, today protections are in place that make participating in a study a very safe experience.
I think that African Americans can take time to educate themselves and others about the clinical trials that exist and the informed consent process.
So what is precision medicine? Well, overall, precision medicine is an approach that takes the individual characteristics of each person into account when designing treatment and care options. So we're not only speaking about genetics, but biology, your environment, the way that you socialize, your normal way of being, the frequency in which you get care, your economic status, what kind of medications can you afford? When you take all of those factors in mind for each person, you can design a treatment and care option that is tailored to them, which probably has a better chance of success at slowing the progression of disease, mitigating or preventing the onset of disease, and better management of disease. This approach is a radical shift in how healthcare systems offer care, and it positions the field and populations to have the best outcome when the unique makeup of each individual is taken into consideration. Next, we will have a community partner spotlight by President Tracy M. Fletcher of the Houston Metropolitan Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. I am Tracy M. Fletcher, and I bring you greetings as the president of the Houston Metropolitan Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Over the years, a wide range of programs addressing education, health, international development, and strengthening of the African American family have evolved. HMAC works tirelessly to uphold the principles of our sisterhood and serve our community. We are committed to serving our communities through our 5 programmatic thrusts. We enact programs under each thrust on various levels, ensuring that our community is better served because of our commitment. Current HMAC programs under our economic development thrust target debt reduction and creating positive financial attitudes through offering the Debt-Free Financial Freedom Movement series. This includes the 12-step debt-free reduction program. HMAC's educational development mission is to mentor young youth participants through monthly workshops and activities that foster a safe, developmental, fun, and educational environment where interactions are with other young teens. The Delta Academy program is a STEM-based program, and the Delta GEMS program takes an entrepreneurial leadership approach and will provide mentors who are educators, creative thinkers, and business leaders who are highly experienced in their various industries. We are committed to making an impact on the international level. The quality of life for our brothers and sisters across the world Our local HMAC current initiative focuses on HIV/AIDS education and awareness through our collaboration with Change Happens. The Physical and Mental Health Committee seeks to achieve the physical and mental health initiatives recognized by our grand chapter within our local community, and to raise awareness and educate our members about health issues that disproportionately impact the African American woman. HMAC has been at the forefront of local political action in the Houston community. Each year, regardless of the election type or legislative agenda, HMAC activates a robust voter registration and voter rights education tour, which includes registering eligible voters at various community sites, including area high schools and churches, also hosting a series of voter education forums. For more information, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, as well as our website at www.hmacdelta.org. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, President Fletcher. All right, so we are going to move on to our research spotlight. And tonight's spotlight will be by Antonia. Antonia, go ahead, Antonia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Antonia. I am a Master in Public Health candidate. And tonight I will be bringing you some basic information about lupus. Next. What is lupus? Lupus is a chronic disease that causes inflammation and pain in any part of the body. It is an autoimmune disease, which means that your immune system attacks the healthy tissue instead of protecting it. Next. Lupus commonly affects the joints, the skin, the internal organs such as the kidney and the heart. Next. Types of lupus. We have cutaneous, neonatal, drug-induced, and the most common form, systemic lupus erythematosus. Next. The following are the people at risk of developing lupus. 1, women between the ages of 15 and 44, certain racial or ethnic groups, such as people of African American descent, Asian American, Hispanic, Latino, Native American, or Pacific Islander. Also, people who have a family member with lupus or another autoimmune disease. Next. What causes lupus? Although there is no known cause for lupus, however, autoimmune diseases such as lupus do run in families, and experts believe it may develop in response to certain hormones such as estrogen or environmental factors. Next. Symptoms of lupus. The symptoms of lupus include extreme fatigue, joint pain, or butterfly rash. Early signs vary widely from person to person. Next. There is no known treatment for lupus. However, it is important to have the right treatment plan, which can help control your symptoms, such as joint pain, swelling, and feeling tired. You can also keep your immune system from attacking your body. Protect your organs from damage is also part of ways to manage lupus. Next. For more information on lupus, visit www.lupus.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonia, for that presentation and background information. So now it's time for our disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by the guest panelists and or presenters do not reflect the views or opinions of DREF Research Matters for All of Us, the NIH All of Us Research Program, or any of these organizations' affiliates. We've shared quite a bit of information tonight about DREF Research Matters, and we encourage you to learn more about the NIH All of Us Research Program by visiting www.joinallofus.org/DREF. Next, we will welcome our keynote speaker, and her bio will now be read.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kiana Allison, MPH student, and tonight I have the honor to introduce our guest speaker, Ms. Monya Ozan. Monya Ozan is a mother, friend, and systemic lupus survivor. She is the mother of one son, Bishop, who she adores. She is the graduate of Texas Southern University, where she received her Bachelor of Business Administration and Administrative Management Systems. Monya has worked at the City of Houston as an administrative specialist for more than 28 years. She was diagnosed with lupus in 1994. Once she heard the symptoms of her diagnosis, she was sure that she had the disease as early as her sophomore year in high school. To establish a diagnosis, Monya had to see multiple physicians until one finally admitted her into the hospital. During the hospital stay, she was found to have a hemoglobin of 4 and had to have 4 feet of her small intestines removed due to loss of blood flow. She spent 3 months in the hospital during this stay. Despite her disease, her life is not limited. She enjoys listening to romance, drama, audiobooks, R&M, gospel music, and would love to travel more. Monya is a firm believer in Jesus Christ and recognizes him as the reason she is still here today. Thank you.
We welcome you to the stage, Monya Ozan. Monya, you are on mute.
My apologies, just running my mouth. I am Monya Ozan. I am a 27, almost 28 year lupus patient. I actually thought I actually had the same details that she just gave on lupus, but for as far as how it concerned me, I had been married for a year when I was diagnosed, but a back history, when I was a sophomore in high school, the skin on one of my fingers came off. The picture that they showed earlier, where it was redness in the hands and it looked like it was raw, that happened, but just on one finger, on one hand. Back during that time, I was, I know people remember the Gold Card. So, it used to take forever to get an appointment, and then you have to sit there all day for them to see you for 10 minutes. And I remember them telling me, that I was allergic to the dishwashing liquid. So I really didn't know, hadn't really heard about lupus itself. There came a time, fast forward to when my symptoms started to become severe. For me, it was like extreme fatigue. There would be times when I would come home from work, literally would have to stop on the side of the freeway to actually take a nap because I wasn't going to make it. But the extreme fatigue, and I had started losing weight like drastically. I did see a few doctors, and some didn't. Now that I know, they didn't take the care or the time to try to figure out what I was trying to tell them. I did see someone as a second opinion, and he did admit me to the hospital. Once that happened, and I tell people all the time, God waited till I was in the right place, at the right time, with the right people. I had I've always been a person that's has a high tolerance for pain, but it was like I had an out of body experience at like 2 o'clock in the morning in the hospital. I could see myself sitting on the bed screaming to the top of my lungs. They began to give me morphine, but it would only last for like 30 minutes. They increased the dose. That still didn't happen. So they called the doctor and he wanted to do exploratory surgery. They did the surgery and they found out that the lupus itself had killed 4 feet of my small intestine and it had to be removed. After the surgery, my family tells me that they thought I wasn't going to make it. The doctor told them that he didn't think that I was going to make it. But by the grace of God, 3 months in the hospital, God allowed me to be well enough to actually go home. But prior to me going home, I had my kidneys failed. And every day it was just like, it was a horrible feeling, of course, not knowing what was going on with me. And then I was on a lot of medication, so I wasn't clear as to what was happening to me. But I took dialysis for about 6 to 8 weeks. And when I did that, one day the doctor came in and he said, "We're not going to do dialysis today." I was like, "Really?" And that happened for a couple of weeks. And eventually, you know, I had to take physical therapy and learn how to walk again. I'd been in the bed for 3 months. But I was allowed to go home. My motivation, I think, was the fact, one, I had just gotten married. Two, I had just graduated from college at Texas Southern. And, you know, the nurses would say things like, you don't have to worry about it. You can go on disability. I'm thinking, I just spent 5 years in college. I am not going on disability. So I do have a real push and a strong will. And like I said, by the grace of God, by the support of my husband and my family and my close friends and the prayer of my church family, I did get stronger. I encountered, the lupus itself, as well as the medications that I took, especially steroids, led me down several other paths. I became a diabetic. Ultimately, I had breast cancer. I had renal disease. I'm currently in that stage right now. I started back on dialysis in 2019. So I guess what I would say to someone who was diagnosed, you got to keep pushing, because every day my motto used to be, every day that God sends a day, I'm in pain. But I'm here 28 years later to tell you, I don't have those days anymore. I still have aches and pains, but not like every single day in pain all the time. So I just encourage others, at the time that I was diagnosed, we didn't have the World Wide Web. So I was confused about a lot of things, didn't have really anybody to ask, anywhere to go to look for this information. But we do. We now have the World Wide Web. We have so many resources, so many organizations, community organizations. Make yourself knowledgeable of what's going on, and always take your medicine, make your doctor's appointments. I'm just encouraging you to do those things. And it's not over. Your life is not over. It is an adjustment, but your life is not over. That's it.
Okay, so we thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate that. We're going to move into the Q&A session.
Good evening, everyone. I would just like to thank Monya again for all of your stories. You know, I also have chronic illnesses, so I related to a little bit of what you were talking about here, but I think this has a lot to benefit everyone else, even people who might just know someone who has lupus. And that actually is kind of one of our first questions here, is what can family members do to support someone who has lupus?
I actually thought on this one several things. First, educate yourself so that you'll know the possibilities of the disease. One thing I didn't say is that lupus can affect 5 different people in 5 different ways. You know, it's rarely ever the same symptoms for everyone. So educate yourself as a caregiver, you know, understand what the disease is. Also, like create a daily care plan, something where you can document what goes on, is what's said at the doctor's appointment, when they're supposed to take their medicine, how much they're supposed to take, things along those lines. You know, so a patient is going to be an advocate for themselves, but sometimes they're so sick they can't. So as a family member or a close friend, you need to step up in that sense. Also, I'd say always have healthy communication, as well as be positive. Always bring positive energy, because stress, no matter what medical situation you're in, is not good. It'll just induce whatever your symptoms are. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's interesting that you brought up both very tangible points like that diary and advocating in medical appointments and those types of things, in addition to kind of the more general kind of emotional support aspect as well.
Right.
Yeah. And so we actually have another question in the chat here. So just so everyone knows, we do have some pre-planned questions, but also if you have anything, please write in our Zoom chat or our Facebook chat. But we have a question here from Andrea, who asks, what lifestyle changes do you recommend taking after receiving a lupus diagnosis? And all those may change person to person.
Correct. I think my problem used to be, in my head, I was like, I'm not going to let this stop me, and I'm just going to push myself. Well, when your body says no, you lay down somewhere, you get some rest, you be still. And it's okay to say no to people. It took me years to get that through my head. Other adjustments. So because I was in pain all the time, I was very immobile. I'd walk to wherever I need to go. It wasn't like that I couldn't walk. It was just, I was always in pain. And my doctor used to always tell me, you need to incorporate some walking, and what I found the best remedy would be to do water aerobics or something in the water. Even if you just got in a pool and you walked, that tended to help me a lot. But so adjust your lifestyle where you can incorporate some activity, I'm trying to think of what it is. A big adjustment, and it affects your family as well. And it's just, you have to do what you have to do for yourself. And like I stated earlier, make sure you go to your appointments, make sure you take your medicine on time. You have to kind of be selfish in a way to take care of you, because you can't take care of somebody else if you don't take care of yourself.
Right. There's that kind of adage about you can't pour into someone else's cup until you filled up your own.
Correct.
Did you find any diet modifications were helpful in addition to those lifestyle ones?
I think I'm getting around to that, but 20 years later. I know people they hate for people to tell them what they can and cannot have. But I do realize that when I started changing my diet, what I'm putting in my mouth, and everybody's different, you know, and my doctor was insistent on taking out the sugar, taking out the breads, taking out meat and dairy. And I would try and stop, but I wasn't consistent. And honestly, within the last year, I have done those things and has made an awesome difference in how I feel. Just the whole 100% how I feel in general. I'm like I said, I'm not saying that I don't have achy joints, especially when the weather changes or, you know, but it's not as severe as it was before. And taking steroids, which was my big thing. You're not supposed to take it for long periods of time, but that was the only thing that will calm the lupus for me. So of course, you know, it encourages you to eat and it blows you up. So it makes you gain weight. But like I said, once I changed my eating habits, it made the world of a difference.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the reason I actually was curious about that is, like I said, I have a connective tissue disorder. So I also have a lot of joint pain and things like that. And for me, cutting out gluten and becoming vegetarian were things that were helpful. But I definitely relate to what you said about starting and stopping there.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So the next question is, for those who recently received a lupus diagnosis, do you have any words of wisdom or encouragement? You know, I touched on some of these earlier.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did.
Oh, no, it's great.
First and foremost, if you are a believer, whatever belief you have, and mine is Jesus Christ. He has helped me, my belief in him, that he can heal me. You know, that is what I focused on. You know, like I said, you hear people all the time, you know, they'll come to, oh, I had an Amy and she died of lupus. You know, that's why I said earlier about the being positive and having positive energy around you. But most definitely, first and foremost, your belief, and whatever it is you believe in, and you believe that spirit, that God is going to heal you. Keep your faith. Another would be like your family and your friends. A support group. That's what I'm trying to say. A support group. Have a really strong support group. And it's gonna mean that you have to remove some people who may be toxic out of your situation, out of your life. Not to, well, the first reaction to everyone is that it's scary, but believe in what your belief is and stick to that. And when you're having bad days, make sure you have someone you can call, or you meditate, or you pray. Those things are very, very important, because a lot of times there may be someone for you in the daytime, and at night just may be in the bed alone in the dark. You know, just, you know, surround yourself around positive people. Make sure you're, you know, that you stand firm to your faith and beliefs.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that one. So we have another question here, and it's, did you participate in or consider any research studies? And then if so, what was your experience?
Well, I did not. I think just the whole thought, or the whole process of being sick, I really didn't. And like I said, that was back in 1994. Not to say that they didn't have trials back then, but I really wasn't aware of them and never really thought to look into them. But they have come so far over the years, because when I was diagnosed, the doctor told my husband that I wouldn't live past 32. And I was actually 23 when I was diagnosed. So like I said, there's so much with science and research, that has come so far from when I was first diagnosed. A lot of the meds still kind of remain the same, the chemo drugs and the steroids and whatnot, but they've come a long way, because when I was first diagnosed, they said that most patients only lived another 5 years. So now we have a lot of more opportunities, a lot of science, research, so it has come a long way.
Thank you. We have a question from Facebook, and it says, is there a genetic cause of lupus?
As far as what I've read, it is not. However, they do say it runs in families, and that if someone in your family has lupus or any autoimmune disease, that you would be likely to have it, or be, likely to be in your genes.
Thank you. So our next question over here, this one's specifically about managing symptoms. So what tips can you offer for managing symptoms such as fatigue, joint pain, and lupus, or of lupus, sorry.
You said fatigue, joint pain, and what?
Just fatigue and joint pain of lupus. Those are just examples.
Oh, okay. So for me, fatigue meant I needed to shut it down. I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people who tried to push and push and push myself and push myself. And before I know it, I will have had a flare up. So if your body's telling you it needs rest, give it rest. And as far as joint pains, now I've probably tried every salve, cream, alcohol rubs. And with those things, some helped, some didn't, but you kind of have to try it for yourself to see. Like I said before, the water aerobics, walking in the pool, that helps with, it doesn't put stress on the joints. So it gives you a chance to be mobile, but not to, push against your joints. Let me think. Those are the main things that I would say. Staying mobile as much as you can when you can. Yeah, so I did take some pain relievers, but I was always afraid of becoming addicted. So I would maybe take it maybe the first couple of days, but I just didn't want to continue, putting it in my body if I didn't have to. I endured a lot of pain that way, but that's how I chose to do it. So that's all I can think of at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And we actually have a bit more detail in a kind of follow-up question to this. So one question is about, were there any changes in medication that made it easier for you? And did you have any side effects and, a lot of pills, things like that? Any changes that helped you in that way?
Well, I am still, ever since I was diagnosed, I have probably bounced around between 17 and 24 pills a day. Things like Celebrate, that kind of helped me. Celebrate's really made a big difference. And when they pulled it from the shelves, oh my goodness, I was like, no, don't take it away. But it is back. That alone is one that I know that really does help. Now, I know I hate the steroids, but they do the job. They take the inflammation away. They take most of the pain away. I'm trying to think of other meds. Now, I have been on, when people try to put me on other meds, a lot of times I'll have some kind of side effect that leads to something else. The Celebrates is the one that stands out to me, and the steroids, the different changes as I grew older. Yeah, they changed, one thing to another, and that's a lot. That's something that happens, of course, because you get new meds, and you really don't know if they're going to work unless you take them. But if something you don't feel good or it makes you feel a certain kind of way, make sure you tell your doctor, and then you could try a different option. But over the years, yes, Celebrates is my friend, because I do take it right now.
And then did you have any maybe holistic options that you found were useful?
The holistic options that I realized here recently is raw vegetables, fruits and vegetables, raw vegetables. Like I said, I did take the meat out. I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan, but maybe once, twice in 3 or 4 month period, I might have chicken or fish or, but I realized that in my own research that, when we grew up and our grandparents, they lived in the country, they raised their own cattle, they raised their own pigs and chickens, and they grew their own fruits and vegetables. But now we're in a society that everything is money, 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 and very fast paced. They want the chickens to hurry up and hatch the eggs, and they want the milk, really fast. They want the cows to be big, and so we're fighting against pesticides and antibiotics and things that they're trying to speed up the process. So that's why I see things as a lot of that stuff is not good for you, because we're dealing with something different as opposed to back in the day. They grew their own stuff. They didn't put pesticides and antibiotics in the animals or the food. So it's not as pure, I would say, as it is now. So definitely diet. Trying to think what else I did holistic. So online, like I say, you have to do your research. There's a lot of natural remedies. And it's something you have to be consistent with, because sometimes it doesn't happen all at once at the beginning. But there are holistic remedies, even my grandmother's deceased, but some of the things I remember her telling my mom as I was a kid, I kind of revert back to some of that stuff, So that's what's about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So we actually have a little bit of a follow-up question from our first one. This question is, what advice do you have for someone who's a loved one of a person with lupus, so a support person, who wants to be helpful and supportive without upsetting the person for being concerned or asking about their health too much?
Are they the caregiver or just a family member?
It's a great question.
It's very difficult, and I'm not gonna lie, and it was probably just recently that I told my caregiver that I didn't really realize what he went through. Because you're in pain and just want the pain to go away. And sometimes when you're really not feeling good, you're snappy, you're short. The advice that I'll give to the caregiver, I would say to stay in prayer, and try to be strong. or even, if they're not doing well, not wanting to share with you, there should be at least one caregiver that goes to the hospital, goes to the doctor with the patient. And that would be because you won't know what that person, what their restrictions are, what they're supposed to do, because some people, when they encounter an obstacle like a medical disease, especially lupus, some people, go in a shell and they don't really want to tell anybody, but someone needs to know. So, I know there are people who don't want to share and don't want to tell you, but you need to encourage them and let them know you're there to help them. And sometimes you just have to be pushy, and make your way, not to anger them, but it's only for their benefit.
Okay, yeah, and this person was actually a family member, not a caregiver. But I actually had a question following up on that. You said someone to go with doctor's appointments is helpful. Would you suggest that there's the same person who's there consistently, or would you say that it's just whatever schedules allow?
It would be best if it was the person is consistent. There are times where that person might not be able to come for whatever reason, but you have to have another reliable backup. Because like I said, it can be taxing. I acknowledge that it can be taxing on the caregiver. And so if you have a few who are going to communicate with one another, make sure everybody knows what was said, what went on, what is expected, then yes, then it could be where there are several people. But if it's consistent, at least that person knows. And I'm not gonna lie, there are times when, not me, but I know of situations where people will not share or not tell the truth, if they've gone by themselves. Because A, they don't want somebody to worry. 2, they don't want them in their business, just for a number of reasons. But someone needs to be aware.
Sure. Okay. Our next question is if you would be able to describe what a flare-up is for you and if there are any warnings that lead up to one.
Sometimes I would have flare-ups and it just come out of the blue. But other times I'll get tired. I tend to have like my joints in my hand. This is what happens now. Before, I might get in the bed and try to get out and can't walk to the bathroom, have to crawl. It's just your joints lock up. I tend to start getting like red patches on my joints, and like they look like sometimes they're warm, like they're hot, they're inflamed. So those kind of things are stuff that happens for me. Also, I get a butterfly rash. And the funny thing is I used to be able to see it. But my dialysis nurse, she can walk in the house and tell me, she says, "Are you not feeling well?" "Not really." She says, "I can see the butterfly rash." So when I was in college, I worked with the football team. So I was outside all the time. One of the things they don't encourage for a lupus patient, but I didn't know that I had it. And I would always scrub my face. I'm like, did I get that dirty on my face? And it would never come off, but I didn't know what it was. So like different things like that will happen. And again, everybody is different.
Sure. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Hill actually asked a question following up what we said about the impact of sometimes being taxing on support people as well. What strategies have you and your family found to be most effective at mitigating this burden?
One, being honest. Not holding it in or hiding to feel comfortable. It's okay to not be okay, but like in my mind, people always saw me as a really strong person. It's like I didn't want to seem weak, but be honest. And same thing for the caregiver. If it's a day that they're worn out, then ask that backup person. It's you have to be honest with yourself, because what happens with the caregiver is that if they're getting tired, they're worn out, they don't feel appreciated, then all that builds up, all that emotion builds up. So be honest with yourself. The patient, be honest with the caregiver. So everybody knows what page each person is on. That's mine. And when you love somebody, you go above and beyond anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have another question that I know we're getting close to time. I'd just like to ask this one if we can. We have a question from the chat from Sherry, who says, I'd like to know, how do you recommend talking to young children about lupus?
With my child, I just explained it to him. Now, it may have taken a little longer for him to fully explain, because he always wanted to run and play and come on, Mom, let's do this. And some days I just didn't have it in me. I was like, Mommy's really tired, and I can't do that today, and Mommy's sick sometimes. But when I'm not, we're gonna do such and such. We'll go to the park, we'll throw the ball. But with my child, it was just be honest, and you would be surprised how compassionate small children are, and that they will understand.
Great. So we just have our very last question here. It's, what has motivated you to persevere and thrive in spite of this diagnosis?
My family, my faith. And again, when they were telling me that I could go on disability, people still tell me that now. But as long as God gives me the strength to get up, to go, to do things, because there was a point in time where I was in a dark place, and all I ever wanted to do was be in the dark and sleep. I would get up, go to work, feed my child, take a shower, and go to bed. On weekends, I would just sleep through the whole weekend, not knowing that I was in depression. Of course, like I said, in hindsight, I realized that I was in a dark place, but I was pulling away from people, and people asked me, "Are you okay?" "Oh, I'm fine." Put on a happy face. That I really like the commercial. I think it's I can't remember. It's a commercial with the lady that holds up the little smiley face.
Yep.
And then when people go away, they put it down. That's how I used to feel. But that's why I said, be open and honest. You have to have someone, a family member, a close friend, somebody that you can open up and be honest to.
Yeah, well, thank you. Those are all of our questions here. Yeah, thank you again for sharing your story, being really vulnerable with us. And I'd also just like to thank our community partner again, Tracy Fletcher. And then I'll pass it back over to Dr. Hill, but thank you again.
Beautiful, beautiful testimony, Monya. You know how they say how you turn your pain into power? That would be the words that I would use to describe what you just shared with us, because you gave such good nuggets for people with all types of chronic conditions and caregivers, how you approach it, effective communication between all parties, the strategy of having a consistent person to be a witness to what the physician or clinicians are saying. I hope everyone feels that this content was really meaningful. Oftentimes we have practitioners and providers come and speak, but the personal testaments are as important because it's the lived experience that you can borrow from vicarious learning, someone else's experience, and apply it to your experience or even lend it to someone else as advice. So thank you so much for sharing, like Olivia said, your vulnerability. You are such an effective communicator. You don't need a lot of words, but the impact of your words are felt. So thank you so much for that. We're going to move on with the session. Okay, so we want you to evaluate the session. If you have your phone, you can highlight the QR code there, or you can visit the Linktree website to tell us how you perceived the session. Did you find it informative, useful? Is there anything else about lupus that we didn't share that you wanted to hear? We want to hear from you. And I will ask our Zoom chat manager and our Facebook chat manager to put this link into the chat so that it will be accessible to our participants tonight. If you want to learn more about the initiative, you can email researchmatters@deltafoundation.net. As always, we encourage you to view, like, and share our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Next, we will have Sherachel Gordon, who will announce our raffle winners for tonight.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So here on Zoom, we had 3 individuals that were engaged with questions, well, 2, and then there was a comment of support from the sister of our speaker. She did inform us of some needs that she didn't previously mention. So Latrice Coleman, is that correct? Leatrice Coleman. Nisi Green on Zoom and Cherry Pearson. And on Facebook, we have Alicia Bethel. Those were our raffle winners for tonight. Congratulations, ladies.
Awesome, awesome, congratulations. Thank you, Sherachel, for sharing that information with us. For our raffle winners, I'm going to show my email address in a few minutes. Please email me by tonight so that I can include that information on my report to make sure you receive your raffle winnings via email. Okay, we have a pop-up clinic coming up May 14th from 10 to 1. It won't be as didactic as this session with a lot of information sharing, but we're going to play a little bit of music. We're going to have a few games and show the work that we've done for the last 2 years with the DREF Research Matters for All of Us initiative here in Houston. And we ask that you join us. And our dancing lady definitely shows the energy that we want to bring to the session. It's going to be fun. It's going to be informative, and it's going to give you an opportunity to consider joining the NIH All of Us research program. All right, so mark your calendars. So that's on the 14th. We have another informative session on May 18th at 6 p.m. With Dr. Darrell Shorter. We are going to speak about embracing mental health as an integral part of the African American experience. You do not want to miss this session. It's going to be May 18th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Here is my email, especially for our raffle winners, houstonrmcc@gmail.com. And for those who want to partner with us, maybe on the pop-up clinic or the rest of our sessions through June, you can email me and we can discuss that. To learn more about the NIH All of Us research program, we invite you to visit www.joinallofus.org/DREF. And our leaders are on other calls tonight. They are not on. So we will close out the session and acknowledge again our partners for tonight. the Houston Metropolitan Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Thank you so much for partnering with us, and good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Record.